Gee, Rain, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
They're Pinky and the Brain. Yes, Pinky and the Brain. One is a genius, the other's insane. They're laboratory mice. Their genes have been spliced. They're Pinky and the Brain. Brain, 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 brain.
Welcome to Piggy's Podcast, Week 8. I just shot a pretty much like 80% of a podcast where I was calling it Week 9 the whole time. So I'm very enthusiastic to be recording this again, but I'm going to bring the energy once again. Feel like I left a good one back there calling it Week 9 over and over again. But without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Week 8, hosted by the owner of Dwyer's Promise Ring, picture of a noose, also owner of the longest win streak in this league. 4 games in a row. I'm back to 500. It's a whole new season. Right back in the middle of the pack. I feel like if I put together more wins than losses the rest of the way, I'll be in the playoffs, and I'm going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'm excited. Now I get the energy back. I'm ready to fucking go. So, without further ado, let's get into the scores. First, we had Eddie beating Mayette 125 to 90.5. Eddie, I think, is on a 3-game win streak. He keeps putting up points, doing a real good job. Andrew Luck was mediocre for him this week, which is a change from the last few weeks, but 18 points, nothing to cry about. DeMarco Murray continues to perform for Eddie, 18.5 points. Jordy Nelson picked it back up after only half of a point last week. He got 17 for Eddie. Gronk is Gronk and is going to score like 15 points every week. He had 18.5 points this week. And Mohamed Sanu went nuts. I guess it probably helped that Julio Jones got hurt. And it's Green Bay's defense, well, at least secondary, is not very good. Their run defense is usually pretty good. I don't think they did that well this week. I kind of slept through half the game. But Mohamed Sanu, 18.5 points. Very good performance from Eddie. For Brian's team, Russell Wilson continues to disappoint. He only had 9 points. Jacquizz Rodgers was putting together a pretty decent game, and then he got hurt. He had 12.5. Devontae Booker had a pretty good game. Probably mediocre. I mean, the Chargers' defense is atrocious, but it's also a backup running back. So 14.5 points. Would have had 16.5, but he fumbled. Allen Robinson, mediocre once again. Feel like Brian's got to be disappointed in Robinson's performance so far this season. Crabtree had a very good game, though, with 8 catches for over 100 yards. Only thing that slowed him down was not finding the end zone, but he got 14 points. And 17 points from the Broncos defense for Mayette. Other than that, he had Theo Riddick on his bench for 22 points. It wouldn't have made a difference. There was really not much Brian could have done to win this matchup. I guess if he played Riddick and like Duke Johnson over T.Y. Hilton, which would have been an insane move in my opinion, I think he might have won. But, I mean, that wouldn't have been the smart play. Sometimes you fucking lose and there are points left on your bench, but... So, Mayette's now 4-4, Eddie's 5-3. Eddie has the number 1 overall seed in our league. There are 2 people tied at 5-3, but Eddie has the most points by far. Like, by a good 50 points at least, I think, in our league. So, I mean, it's not out of reach for most points overall, but Eddie has a pretty solid lead so far. Next, we had the Toilet Bowl. I was hoping Dwyer would win this one. He lost to Davis. It was 97-86. Davis's team just wins with like 85, 90 points, it feels like, every week. So this week it was 97-86. Davis had a big game out of Aaron Rodgers with 33 points, once again facing a fucking terrible defense in Atlanta. Davis also didn't play defense this week. He kept the Steelers' defense in, even though they were on a bye. I fundamentally don't understand that because I don't think the Steelers' defense is very good at all. It's not like he had Minnesota's defense and he didn't feel like dropping somebody. It felt like just punting this week and getting no points from his defense. I don't understand why the Steelers were in his lineup. I don't know if Davis is still checking this league. I know he told me this weekend that he hasn't watched the podcast in a few weeks. Not happy with that news. But he won. So congrats to him, I guess. Dwyer had a good game out of Matt Ryan with 23 points. Dez Bryant came back, put up 19 points. And he kept playing Chicago's defense, which somehow played pretty well up against the Vikings, put up 10 points. Other than that, Dwyer's team was trash. Nothing really worth noting on their benches. I mean, Dwyer had Allen Hurns on his bench. But it's Dwyer. I don't know if he's even checking his lineup every week. So, Allen Hurns could have won it for him, but he rolled with Cameron Meredith. That's his name. I paid attention last night. It's not Clay Meredith. It's Cameron Meredith. He put up 2.5 points instead of Hurns with 18.5, so that would have been the difference. But now Dwyer is 1-7 and Davis is 4-4. So Dwyer's out of it. I was wondering if he won out, if he would be in the playoffs, but he'd be 6-7, and I don't think an under 500 record is going to cut it for the playoffs. Everybody would have to collectively shit their pants. And I don't think that's going to happen, because everybody's been pretty close so far this year, besides Dwyer. Next, we had Barnsey versus Kyle Faola. Barnsey requested a comment in this matchup. He wanted to say, fuck Warwick and fuck Kyle Faola. Maybe not Kyle Faola. He might have just said fuck Faola. The whole fucking Faola family. Fuck them all. So that one's for you, Barnsey. That one was 82.5 to 73.5. Not a very good matchup. Somehow scored less than the Toilet Bowl. For Kyle, he had 19 points out of Marcus Mariota. He continues to perform pretty well. Feel like that's going to run out pretty soon. Ezekiel Elliott continues to be Ezekiel Elliott. He had 16 points. Pretty good game. Especially against the Eagles defense that I feel like has been pretty tough this year. Other than that, not much worth noting, because he had 82.5 points. Not going to get many good performances out of that. He did, though, play the Eagles defense, which apparently stunk really bad this week. 29 points isn't going to get you many fantasy points, but I feel like usually they're good for a few sacks, a few picks, something like that. Not this week. They put up -2 points, and he left Carolina's defense on his bench with 18 points. He still has Clive Walford on his team, which I don't understand. Nobody with Clive Walford on their team deserves to win. I feel like at this point he's just keeping Clive Walford on his team so he can hear me just complain about him having Clive Walford on his team every week. So congratulations, Kyle. You piss me off a little bit every single week when I look and that fuckhead's still on your team. Barnsey had a shit game out of Mark Ingram. He ran for a total of 5 yards and a fumble, so -2 points. Not what you're looking for out of your number one running back. Julio Jones also got hurt for Barnsey. That didn't help. He only put up 3.5 points. Was really expecting a lot more out of him. He was on my DraftKings team. Would have won a lot more money if he had fucking played up to his expectations. But I digress. Travis Kelce had a huge game for him, 19.5 points. And he also had negative points out of his defense, -3. maybe would have benefited from the Davis approach of just not fucking playing in defense. So Barnsy's now 4-4. Barnsey and I have had like totally opposite seasons. He started out 4-0. He's on a terrible losing streak now at 4-4. I don't know what he needs to do, but he needs to do something because this isn't cutting it. Oh, so actually we have 3 teams at 5-3 because Fayola's at 5-3. I didn't even notice that. I don't know how he's 5-3. I feel like once again, like Davis, he wins like with a fucking low score every single week. He just faces teams that shit their pants against him. And then next we had Espo versus Ben. Espo won 112.5 to 94. Once again, big game out of Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. I don't know if the junior's right. I know the Thomas Edward Patrick Brady part's right. I feel like junior's right. 29 points out of him. He's the god. He's always going to do great things. I feel like that's just expected. Devontae Freeman had a good game with 19 points against a tough Green Bay front seven. Bilal Powell, I drafted him. He finally did something. It took fucking 8 weeks. He had 13.5, but once again it was against Cleveland, so I don't know how much stock you can put into that. Jordan Matthews finally put on his big boy pants and had a good game with 17.5 points. And that's pretty much for Espo's team. I mean, he had Diggs on the bench who put up a good game with 17 points. Everybody else kind of average scores. Then Ben had Carson Palmer finally once again put on his big boy pants, scored 22 points against, I mean, Carolina's defense is supposed to be tough. They haven't really been so far this year, but they whooped the shit out of the Cardinals this week, and Carson Palmer still had a pretty good game, probably just because he was throwing the ball all over the fucking place towards the end of the game. Another good game out of A.J. Green with 16.5 points, and that was without a touchdown. That guy's a fucking monster. Quincy Enunwa had 17 points because he was playing the Browns, and the Browns just let you do whatever the fuck you want on offense. And Gillislee, who I constantly want to just say Gillislee, I don't know why the fuck he has that extra L in his name. He had 15.5 points, pretty good game. But Ben got -2 points out of his defense, which he needed to perform on Monday night. The Vikings just shit their pants against the Bears. And Josh Lambo got a whopping -1 points from the kicker spot. I feel like he put up 17 last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but either way, that kind of fucked Ben. So now Ben is 4-4, Espo's 5-3. So the top 3 teams in the league are Espo, Eddie, and Kyle Fayola at 5-3. Last but not least, we had myself versus Kyle Cabral. I won 102 to 89.5. Not my best week, but a win's a fucking win. Kyle had a not very strong game out of Matt Stafford with only 13 points. He's had a very good season so far. Not very good this week. Houston's defense is good, not great. Should expect more than 13 points out of him. But Amari Cooper went off with 29 points. He had me shitting my pants for a little while. Was not feeling good there. But thankfully, Greg Olsen shit his pants. Buffalo's defense, not very good. 1.5 points and 1 point respectively. Kyle's carrying 2 kickers. Matt Prater, who he started, put up 7 points. Dan Bailey put up 12. And other than that, nothing of significance on Kyle's team. Edelman had a touchdown, which was the only thing that saved him. He had 11 points overall. My team, I played Jameis Winston over Drew Brees. Not much of a difference. Winston had 18 points. Brees had 20. I just like the matchup a lot more with Winston. Feel like he should have done more, but 18's okay. I'll take that. especially in a winning effort. Melvin Gordon continues to be a fucking beast. He put up 17. Terrell Pryor is a very good pickup for me. I'm happy with that. That was just a fucking shot in the dark. He had 15 points this week. Thankfully, because he shit his pants last week. I played Delaney Walker over Jordan Reed, which I thought was going to bite me in the ass because I thought there was a Delaney Walker played on Thursday. Didn't know the status of Jordan Reed going into that game. Got 9 points out of Delaney Walker, was feeling good until fucking Sunday morning. Jordan Reed puts up 19.5 points, and I thought that was going to be my demise. Luckily, it wasn't. Then I had Ty Montgomery decide that he was like pissing and shitting blood and having sickle cell trait, which I had no idea what the fuck that is at like 2:30 in the afternoon after all the 1 o'clock games had fucking started. So I had to drop him, picked up Devontae Adams. Another big game out of him. He's sneakily like a top 20 wide receiver. I think he's ranked like 14th, something like that, over wide receivers all season long. Don't know why he's still on the waiver wire. Very happy he was still on the waiver wire because that fucking saved my team this week. Without him, I would have lost by half a point and I would have been fucking rip shit on this podcast. Not my best week, though, as far as managing the roster. Like I said, I had Jordan Reed on my bench with 19.5 points. Jonathan Stewart with 21.5. I think this is back-to-back weeks where I've left Stewart on my bench, and he's actually had a really fucking good game. And then Breeze with 20. Other than that, not much to note. Both Kyle Cabral and I are both 4-4 now. So the standings right now are, like I said, Espo leads the East at 5-3. Then it's me, Mayette, Barnesy at 4-4. In that order as far as points for so far this year. And Dwyer bringing up the rear at 1-7. Then in the West we have Eddie and Kyle at the top. Eddie and Kyle Fiola at the top at 5-3. Eddie has about 100 more points for than Kyle Fiola, so he's pretty comfortably ahead in that tiebreaker. Then Ben, Kyle Cabral, and Davis tied for third place in that division. And once again, pretty big difference in points for all of them for the tiebreaker. Ben has 873 points for this year. Kyle has 808, and Davis's team actually has the least amount of points in the league so far this year, and somehow he's 4-4. He's got 714.5 points, which is worse than Dwyer, who has 730.5 points. So that is evidence that I haven't been unfairly shitting on Davis's team. It fucking stinks. It's not good, and it shouldn't be 4-4. The fucking 1-7 team is somehow better than him. And somehow, I have the third most points in the league. Only, I would be tied for second. I'm a half point behind fucking Ben. And I'm goddamn 4-4. So, if we do that math correctly, I am 160 points ahead of Davis, and I have the same fucking score. 20 more points a week. And I have the same, not same score, same fucking record. 20 more points a week and the same record. Fucking hate fantasy football sometimes. But you know what? Water always finds its level. My team's very good. Very good. And I'm going to be in the playoffs at the end of this year. Next week I have fucking Scared of Clowns little baby Mayette once again. Second time. For some reason I don't fucking face Dwyer's team twice this year, even though we're in the same division. I have Dwyer week 10. I'm looking forward to that. That's a win. So, I'm looking to go 4-1 the rest of the year. Be comfortably in the playoffs. Feel like 3-2 should get me there, but I want 4-1. I want to be number 1 seed. Actually, I want to find some way to face either Fayola or Davis, whichever one of those shitbag teams makes it in the playoffs. But I'm excited. I've got a new lease on life. 500 football. New season starts today. And I fucking can't wait. I'll see you next week, Mayette. Hope you don't see any fucking clowns, you big pussy.